This is Top of the Morning. I'm Steve Izant.
And I'm Tia Taylor.
We've got a great show this morning for you about acting. We all love to act. Both of us are actors. So we're going to take a break. Don't touch that remote. We'll be right back.
I'm nuts about downtown Baltimore's West Side. Hello, I'm John Waters, and I'm proud to say that Baltimore has always been my home. It's the inspiration behind all my films, including Hairspray, Crybaby, Serial Mom, and A Dirty Shame. Let me tell you, there are not a more eccentric, monumental, eclectic, intriguing, and character-filled 28 blocks anywhere in the world, and I'm here to prove it to you. This is where Babe Ruth was born. They tell me he's the best baseball player ever. Not that I'd know. I'm more into theater. Like nearby Arena Players, the nation's longest continuously running African-American community theater. I'm also a big fan of century-old Antique Row, where New York dealers come to buy and later mark up their purchases sky high for their Manhattan buyers. On that same block sits the U.B. Blake National Jazz Institute, housing memorabilia from Baltimore jazz greats like Billie Holiday and, of course, U.B. himself. The West Side is also where the Maryland Historical Society calls home, with its many Baltimore artifacts, including the original manuscript of the Star-Spangled Banner and Nipper, the RCA dog. Oh, and the National Dentistry Museum, the only one of its kind in the U.S., is where George Washington's dentures live. And no, they were never wooden. And right in the middle of it all, as if just to add mystery and intrigue, sits the gravesite of Edgar Allan Poe, my kind of guy. Sometimes I go there to meditate. Now, the thing that defines Baltimore for many people around the world is right here also. Our sports franchises, the Orioles and the Ravens, two birds that nest in the West. I'm nuts about downtown Baltimore's West Side. You will be, too.
Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Izant. I'm with my co-host, Tia Taylor. Tia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tia is one of our new co-hosts, but already she's doing a great job. And for you viewers that haven't seen her before, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Steve, I'm really just breaking into the hosting business as a professional fundraiser for the last 12 years. And I decided that I really wanted to venture into TV hosting and commercial work. So in the past year, I've really been pursuing that. I connected with Connie Lamoth, who's a casting director and producer in the Virginia area.
Right.
I've been taking acting classes. I've been a Toastmaster for several years, so I've honed a lot of my public speaking skills.
We welcome you as a co-host.
Thank you.
One of the questions our viewers want to know is, how did you find out about this gig?
Well, Connie Lamoth, who's a casting director and producer in the Virginia area, connected me with Loretta Gubernatus, and who's producer of Top of the Morning. So that's how I learned about it.
All right, well that sounds good. You mentioned you were a professional fundraiser. What kind of funds have you been raising over the years?
I've done everything from annual giving to major gifts, which is when you solicit individuals for larger gifts, to corporate matching gifts. So a little bit of everything in the fundraising world. Okay,
and you mentioned Toastmasters. For those of our viewers that aren't familiar with it, it's a wonderful organization, been around for quite a long time.
Yes. It has. I started that probably about 8 years ago, in being involved with the club, and I really enjoyed both public speaking and listening to public speakers to learn more from them. It's an organization, it's international. There's one everywhere, so you can just go onto their website to check where there's one in your area. But it really helps you with public speaking, engaging with individuals, and even impromptu speaking.
And acting classes. We probably have some wannabe actors out there. Tell us a little bit more about your acting classes. What kind of acting and where are you taking these classes?
I started off taking some classes at Arena Players here in Baltimore, which is located on the west side of Baltimore. It's historically black theater. I've taken some workshops in the Tacoma Park area, the Performing Arts Training Studio, as well as I'm a member of the Actor Center in Washington, D.C., which provides a lot of resources.
Well, and I'm also a member of Actors Center. It's an actors cooperative, for those of you that aren't familiar with it. A great place to learn about upcoming events that one can audition for. Of your classes, which one do you like? What's been the most interesting one so far? Which one have you learned the most, perhaps?
I think the improv classes really I've learned the most from, and I think those are the ones that will help me most in TV hosting, just learning to think on the fly and come up with ideas and concepts, and kind of learning to say yes and go with something as something's presented to you.
Well, and that's exactly what this show is. So we have some direction from our fabulous director, but we also do a little bit of improv here occasionally. Well, Tia, our viewers probably know a little bit more about you now, but they also probably want to know, what are we going to have on the show today? And I think that since we're both actors, and actors love to talk about themselves, and we probably have some wannabe actors out there viewing, let's talk about acting.
Sounds great.
Now, you talked about Actors Center. Are you familiar with Brian Dragonuk's site?
I am, and I think it's a great resource. You can easily sign up at briandragonuk.com, and it provides a wealth of information about local auditions, as you well know, local auditions, classes, and other opportunities in the acting world.
There are so many resources in the DC, Baltimore area. Actors Center, Brian Dragonuk. Another one is a guy named Aaron Marcus, who, for those of you that are actors, this gentleman makes his living as an actor, and that's not easy to do. We've got a great clip of his coming up. Let's take a look.
Well, great to be here. So I just wanted to start off by introducing my guest, John Strawbridge, who some of you might know, and for those of you who don't know John, besides being just a really, really nice guy, he's also done many things in the industry. He's worked in casting, he's a director, he's a writer, he's done some acting, and I'm really, really so happy to have John with us today. So John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so what I wanted to do was start from the very, very beginning. And let's say an actor gets a phone call from an agent about an audition, or like in today's time period, we're finding out about auditions, online. What are some of the first things that you would recommend an actor to do as soon as they find out about an audition?
Well, you've got to. There's two things you got to be aware of. First, you got to be aware of the business things that you got to check out, and then the things that you as an actor need to know to start to prepare for your audition. So, just business, professional-wise, you got to make sure that you're getting information about when it's going to shoot. Make sure that you're available, where it's going to shoot, make sure it's something that you can get to or don't have any problems with, and anything else that may matter to you, whether it's a daytime shoot or a nighttime shoot, or inside or outside, or cold or hot, or those kinds of things. But then you need to start to look at the information you've got to have to prepare for your audition. So you got to make sure, whether it's information you're getting from your agent or manager or directly from the casting office, anything you can find out about the project, who's producing it, who's directing it, where is it showing, is it a feature film, is it a television show, is it a series, is it a commercial, is it industrial? Because each of those facts, just the simple fact of whether it's a commercial or a TV show, is going to start your audition preparation and start asking the questions that you need to ask to understand what you're going to have to do next.
Well, that was a great clip.
Yeah.
John Strawbridge works for a local agency, Pat Moran. Aaron Marcus, of course, as I mentioned before the clip, makes his living as an actor. That's not easy.
It is not easy, and I think it's a fine balance between breaking into acting and also, maintaining a living as well. And I think there's several people in the area that do that quite well. Ken Arnold of Studio Bow here in the Canton area, he's a gentleman who's made his living as an actor, as well as has a studio, and is a photographer.
He does that, plus he also has a number of classes. You sometimes see him advertising on Brian's site, for example. Let's get back to you for a second, though. What are some of your goals, or do you know yet? Because you're just starting out as an actor. Have you thought about, where do you want to be in 5 years, for example?
I have. Ideally, I would love to host a travel and lifestyle show. That's really one of my passions, is travel and people and engaging with people, and being able to tell a little bit of people's story and a little bit of history of a place as well. And commercial work is really what I'm interested in.
Well, if I can put in a plug for our producer-director, she has a wonderful series called On the Road. Now, this, of course, is Top of the Morning, but this other series, Top of the Road, how about On the Road? Anyway, it's On the Road. It sounds like a natural. So commercials, any particular kind, or you just be happy to get a commercial to begin with?
Just looking at basic commercials. I've had some auditions for some public service announcements. And right now I'm doing brand ambassador work, which is something that can lead to commercials, just marketing a product. at trade shows and stores and things of that nature. So working as a brand ambassador is really great experience also for trying to work and hone your commercial skills as well.
Well, and one thing that we should probably talk about to our folks out there that want to be actors or just starting out, I used to tell people that I acted full-time. The truth of the matter is I audition full-time and occasionally I get something. And so one of the things that you do have to say to yourself is, I'm going to do the best job I can every time I go on an audition. And maybe they didn't choose me because it's not right for me or they're looking for someone else. But I think the thing that people should remember is they shouldn't be nervous, because that casting director, they want to find someone. They're not there at the end of the day to say, oh gosh, I didn't find anyone. They want to find someone, and that could be you. You just have to convince them that it's you as opposed to the other guy.
That's so true, and it's really a matter of just showing your talent, engaging, and being really true to yourself, and then honing those acting skills that you really need.
Tia, some of our viewers might not realize it, but we are on a working ship. People are taking tours, you're going to hear voices and the sounds of the city in the background.
Yes.
But let's get back to talking about acting, because that's what us actors like to do.
That is true.
So one of the things that you mentioned, Ken Arnold, earlier. I took some classes from Ken. One of the things that he told me, and I've remembered it to this day, is it's a business. And you need to do something every day on your craft, whether it's auditioning, whether it's memorizing some lines, whether it's looking for work. You need to do something every single day, because as fun as it is to be on set and to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, if you like to do that as well, it is a business and you need to practice it. So
I think it's like any career or profession. You've got to continue working at it. It's continuing education, continuing training. Acting is really no different than any other field where you have to hone up on your skills every now and again.
you absolutely do. We got more sounds of the city in the background there, just so our viewers. So Ken Arnold, Brian Dragonuk, Aaron Marcus are some of the, Pat Moran, some of the big well-known names here in the Baltimore area. But our neighbor to the north, Philadelphia, great casting director up there, Mike Lemon. Some very interesting credits. 12 Monkeys is one movie that he's most famous for in terms of the casting. We've got a great clip of him coming up. Let's take a look.
Alicia, hi.
Brian!
Oh, good. All right, now
Hi,
let me
Brian.
just say to
Oh,
everybody.
I couldn't miss at least stopping
He
by,
found out
saying
what to say.
hello.
We're here with Mike Lemon from Mike Lemon Casting in Philadelphia, and wanted to find out, Mike, so do you have any advice for actors? They're coming in to read for you.
Oh,
What should they know?
wow. How much time do we have? Okay, let me start out by saying I think the world's full of talent. That it's just overflowing with talent. And if this is someone's dream, then pursue it. I mean, I think that's what we're here for, to pursue our dreams, that it sort of guides us along the way. It depends on how old you are, where you're from, but go for it, do it, take one step, do the right thing, whether it's community theater or school theater or whether it's getting your head shot, taking some acting classes. You know, most of what we do is cast in front of the camera. So if we have a lot of people coming to us who've only done theater, well, the language is the same, objective, motivation, relationship, all of that. But it's a very different thing.
Absolutely.
Working in front of the camera as opposed to being on the stage.
Easier. I think it's much easier myself. I do.
If you can be natural,
Right.
then it's easier. Some people have a hard time being natural.
Oh wow.
No, they
Yeah,
do,
that's-
because they're so geared into performance that the minute they hit their mark and open their mouths, all of a sudden they're talking like this. That essentially doesn't work for what we do.
You know, quite often people will say to me, you know, when I go into an audition, I'm scared out of my mind. As a casting
Yeah.
director, do you have any words of advice for people as to what to do to help calm them down?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Breathe.
Breathe.
Get yourself where you're going early, so that you don't have those extra tensions that come from like running late. Make sure you've thought it through, that you've got what you need, that you've got your headshot. So because really it's beyond just the nerves. The sense of confidence, just a quiet confidence an actor has walking into the room makes all the difference in the world in the impression we get of who that person is. And it's hard to be centered under those pressures, especially if it's something that you want really badly.
Absolutely.
So I have a mantra in my acting class that I invite people to use, which is I don't care. I don't care. Of course you care. Of course you care. But to tell yourself over and over again, I don't care. I don't care.
Well, that was interesting information. It was nice to see Mike Lemon and learn more about him.
Well, it was, and I think I recognized our old friend Aaron Marcus doing the interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, let's continue on. Before we do, again, just a reminder, we've got tours going on the Constellation. If you haven't toured the Constellation in a while, you should. But let's get back to my favorite topic, acting. Other classes, other resources. In downtown DC, there's a place called Studio Theater that if you're interested in acting in the theater, they teach the Stanislavski method. Some people jokingly, go, what's my motivation? That was Stanislavski's question. There's a place called Woolly Mammoth, which is kind of a funny sounding name, but also a very serious place if you're looking to do acting. A lot of people, of course, start out in community theater. Have you ever considered doing any community theater?
I did. I worked at, did some plays at Arena Players here in Baltimore.
All right.
And I took some classes there and also was in a play there. And I've done another community theater. It was at a local church as well.
Well, that's good to hear. I've also done a number of community theater productions. Just got through with one down at Fells Point called The Lethal Injection, and starting another one now in Bus Stop. But community theater is a good place for you to learn. Oftentimes they need folks, they want folks, and if you have even a modicum of talent, it's a great place to hone your skills and to work into those upper levels.
I agree with you. And just to mention some other resources for acting, a place where I went was the Performing Arts Training Studio in Tacoma Park. It's run by Professor Denise Hart from Howard University. And there's several opportunities for classes there for both adults and children.
That definitely sounds good. So you mentioned earlier commercials. How do you find commercial work? Because I'm sure people out there are saying, well, okay, that sounds great, but how do I find these things? And it sounds like it's a changing of the watch in the background there.
Lots of action on the USS Constellation today on this beautiful sunny day in Baltimore. I'm still learning how to find out about things. One of the things I do is I just utilize a lot of resources like Brian Draganoff, and I do a lot of networking. As a professional fundraiser, that's what I did for a living, so that's really been helpful to me, learning those networking skills in terms of my acting and how to connect with different things. But I know Pat Moran often has castings for commercials in the DC area. Central Casting sometimes has that. They also have extra work. So there's various ways in different agencies. Connie Lamoff, who is the person that connected me to Top of the Morning, she's a casting director as well. She works mainly with movies, but she also works at an agency called 24/7 in Virginia, and they also cast for commercials as well.
You mentioned central casting and extras. And now, extra work is a way that a lot of people get started.
Right. I've done a few extra jobs here in the Baltimore area. Fortunately, we're in a great area where we've had quite a few productions come through. And extra work is a way to really get on set, kind of learn what's going on, get a feel for the action, get a feel for terms and how things work.
Well, and people may be saying, well, where do I find this extra work? And it's the sources we've already mentioned. It is places like Brian Draganoff's site, Actors Center, even sometimes, although you need to be careful, but it's Craigslist.
Yes.
If you look under gigs and then talent, oftentimes there's something there, but that's one of those ones where you kind of have to sift through and be careful. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. We're going to go to a break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
So much, for the job that I booked. It was great. Is that looking like a sign of being desperate, or do you see that as being good business and a good way to stay in touch with people and let them know that they truly do thank you for the opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's good business for the most part. I think staying in touch in general is. I think postcards. I think the better use of the postcards is saying, I'm in a certain production or I'm appearing in a certain. Not that the director is going to see everything that you've done, but just it reminds them that you are working, that you are employable.
Hey, John, what I think would be great for everybody if maybe you could give us one exercise that everybody could do today or tomorrow, whenever they want to get started with it, but just one thing to really start practicing and using your ideas.
Sure. One simple thing you can do is find a scene online. Either grab a clip from IMDb or from Netflix or something you have TiVo'd. But find a scene, preferably not even a long scene, something that would just be 1 or 2 minutes, and look at the character. Don't look at the main character. Don't look at the star, but look at the supporting character, the guest character. And look at that as if that's an audition scene that you've got, and ask yourself, I want you 3 questions about that scene. So first of all, look at the scene and say, okay, what is the purpose of that scene? What is it, a character or plot scene? What are we trying to show the audience in that scene? And then ask yourself, well,
Welcome back. One of the things that we haven't talked about yet are headshots and resumes. Tia, do you have a headshot? Do you have a resume yet?
I do have a headshot. I have a resume.
You're gonna have to talk up though, because we've got we've got that horn in the background. It is the harbor. It's a working harbor.
That's so true.
All right, so I interrupted you. I apologize. So headshots.
I do have a headshot. I started off real simple with just a local photographer, and I have a resume as well. I recently took a workshop with Sean Pratt, who's another individual, who's a working actor, but he also gives classes on acting coaching and talks about resumes. So that's something that I'm still working on honing as I gain more experience too. Starting out, I didn't really have experience, but as I'm building experience, I'm able to craft my resume better. But Sean Pratt was a great resource in helping me to learn how to craft a better resume.
Well, that's a good thought, and what I want to share with our viewers is there are classes for, like, how do you audition? There's classes about how to write a resume. For my first headshot, I didn't want to spend the money, and so I have a lot of photographs on my computer, and I went through all those photographs, and I found one that looked kind of like it could be a headshot if you cropped it. And so using the cropping feature, I cropped it, and then I took it to my local FedEx Kinko's place, and they printed it out for about a buck a shot, so they're not inexpensive. Later on, if you really decide this is the business for you, then headshots are going to cost you a little bit more, and they range anywhere from like $200 up to $1,000.
Yes, that's so true.
I went to New York about a year ago and spent $700 for ending up with 5 different headshots, and that's just for the photo session. Then after that, of course, you need to get them printed. So, but you don't need to spend a lot of money to begin with. I mean, just like I said, I cropped a photo that I had and then took it to the local Kinko's. As far as a resume goes, you're not going to have, this is the classic, you're not going to have any credits.
Right.
And so what do you put on your resume? Well, there's the basic information. How tall are you? What do you weigh? What color's your eyes and hair? And there's a section called special abilities. Now, tell me your special abilities.
Well, one of my things was really, I focused on public speaking, engaging with individuals. I focused on my brand ambassador work. I focused on a lot of those things on my resume because that's where I had the experience right then and there. And then as I was in plays, local productions, I added the local productions to it. I added the extra work I did to it. So I just added those things little by little.
Right. Now your community work, your community theater, your extra work, that's going to go in your credits section. Back to special abilities for a moment. Special abilities is nothing more than things that you do. Do you ride a bicycle? Are you animal friendly? Do you like dogs and cats and things like that? In my case, I know how to operate a sailboat or a powerboat. I can swim. I can drive a stick shift. So those are special abilities. But your extra work, that's an easy way to get your first credit, because that's sometimes the toughest. People go, how am I going to get my first credit? And you can find extra work on places like Central Casting, on Brian Dragonuk's site, on Actors Center, Craigslist. Again, be careful. I try and avoid zombies. I'm not big into being extra zombies. You know, you walk around stiff-legged going brains or something like that.
They call that, I think, walking furniture sometimes, extra work. So you do have to be careful, but it's a fine balance between extra work and it's work and getting your experience, but also making yourself branch out even further than that.
Well, you do, but it's a good way to get those first few credits. You're not going to get any money for it, but right now money is not as important as credits are.
And experience.
And experience. Tia, one of the things our viewers might be wondering about, if they're actors, they may be thinking, am I going to have to join the union? Now, there's a number of unions. The most famous, though, is Screen Actors Guild. And there are some benefits, but there are also some liabilities. First of all, to join, you have to have 3 chits or waivers, as they're called. If you go on a big movie, for example, and you're non-union, you're given a waiver because you're non-union. But if you get 3 waivers, then you have to join before you can work on any more union productions. But there are some benefits of not being union here in the DC area. Let's talk about those for just a second.
I know I'm non-union, and I think one of the benefits of that is there's so much work in this area that is non-union. So when you're first breaking into the business, you need the experience, you need the exposure. So you really need to be non-union, because once you become union with SAG, and they recently merged with AFTRA, once you become union, you are limited to union work, and then you're in a much different caliber of actors as well. So your competition is a lot more stiff, and you may not get the experience you'd like or the exposure you'd like to get.
I think that's probably true. And those sirens you hear in the background, they're not coming after us because we're both non-union, but rather something else is going in beautiful downtown Baltimore.
And you know, Top of the Morning is one of the few shows that the union works with. Okay?
That the union works with? Okay.
You can say that, okay?
Okay.
And interestingly enough, Tia, you may not know this, but Top of the Morning is one of the few shows that the union will work with.
Oh, that's great.
So that is a great benefit. But here in the Washington, D.C. area, you need to get experience. The best way to do that is to be non-union. If you're going to move to New York, ultimately then you probably need to join Screen Actors Guild or SAG, as you mentioned it, or out to Los Angeles. But most of us are going to stay here in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So right now, staying non-union is a good option for at least the 2 of us for the foreseeable future.
I think it's true, and you just really have to balance that out for yourself with the level of experience you currently have and what direction you're looking to go into to decide union or non-union. I think that's something I'm constantly reassessing.
Tia, I hope our viewers have enjoyed another great show. We've talked a lot about acting. What are some of the things that you'd like to leave our viewers with? What sort of takeaway should they have?
I think the main thing is just believe in yourself and hold on to your dreams. I mean, acting can be really tough, so just maintain that drive and that passion for what it is you want to do that you have in your heart. Continue the training and connecting and networking. I think that's the main thing to make it work.
We've mentioned a number of names that are potential resources to those folks out there that want to get into acting or are thinking about acting. Let's review some of those names just for our viewers one more time, since they may not have focused on it the last time it came around.
Sure. Today we've mentioned the Actor Center in DC. You can find them online. Ken Arnold, Pat Moran, casting agency here in the Baltimore area, and you mentioned a few others?
Well, Brian Dragonuk's site, of course, which is one of the main ones. I think it's spelled D-R-A-G-O-N-U-K. Dragonuk Connects, I think, is the actual website.
I believe that's right, DragonukConnects.com.
And their Actors Center, I think, because it's an actors cooperative, has a small fee, a small annual fee. Brian's site, it's free if you want it. He has a premium option. Well, we've had a great time this morning. If you've ever thought about acting, you want to indulge your passion, this is probably a good way to get started. We've named some great websites for you. I'm Steve Izant.
And I'm Tia Taylor.
This is Top of the Morning. Thanks a lot for watching. Please watch us again next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.